this project, you're going to need 2 paint stir sticks that you can get from Walmart, and we're going to cut it down. You're going to need 1 5-inch piece, 1 6.5-inch piece, then you're going to need 1 7-inch piece, and then you're going to need 1 8-inch piece. You're also going to need a pyrography marker, and I got this off of Amazon, and what this is you can just use this to burn letters into your wood where you don't have to use a hot wood burning tool. But you're also going to need your heat gun to make this marker work. You're also going to need some stencils for this project. If you don't have any stencils, you can definitely try using your freehand. I'm no good at freehand, so I'm using these stencils to use my pyrography marker with. I'm going to take a hammer and we're going to distress this wood, and I just wanted to show you this. This is a hammer that my husband got me as a gift, and I thought it was so precious, and he had it hand carved, engraved, whatever you want to call this, and he said he got it off Amazon, and this is just the handiest tool to have for these smaller projects. And I'm just going to take this hammer and I'm just going to beat the heck out of this wood, take out all your aggressions that you may have, and we're just going to distress it. And we're going to do this to each piece. Once we have all of our pieces of wood distressed, I'm going to go in with this Pavement by Apple Barrel, and I'm going to mix it into some water to make me a little stain, and I'm going to stain each one of these pieces front and back. As I'm staining each piece, I'm also taking a paper towel, and you can also use a wet wipe, and I'm just wiping off all the excess stain so that there's not as much of it that soaks into the wood. While all of our little pieces are drying, we're also going to take another paint stir stick, and we're just going to cut off like the end piece that you see here so that you're left with this nice straight piece. And we're also going to stain it the same color as the smaller pieces. And this will be the stand that we put our smaller pieces onto. When all of our pieces are dry, we're going to start working on the lettering on these. And I'm going to start with the smallest piece, and this is the 5-inch piece. And I'm just finding the center point, so it'd be 2.5 inches, and I'm marking it. And on this one, I'm going to stencil in the word you.
Love I lived, the dream I knew. This Christmas, I only wanna be close to you.
And then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to fill in all those places, you know, how stencil leaves those blank spots. I'm just going to fill all those in. Once I have my letters stenciled onto my wood, I'm going to take my pyrography marker and we're going to color in those letters. And then once we get those letters colored in, we are going to take the heat tool and it is going to look like those letters are burnt into the wood. I love this marker, and I'll put the link in the description box below for it. It's so much easier to use than a wood burning tool.
In the crowded streets calling Christmas time, the ones we meet wear their warmest smile, and from far away we hear bells that chime.
And now you just run your heat tool over it until you get to the desired darkness of it that you want, and then you're done. It looks like you've actually burned into the wood.
Carry a song heard through the ages from angels on high.
Now you're just going to take the 6-inch piece, find the center point, which would be 3 inches, and on this one I am going to stencil in the word cut. And you're going to do this to all the pieces. Just find the center point and stencil in the words, and you're going to stencil in the words, "You cut tree farm." Once we have our smaller pieces done, you should spell out the word "You cut tree farm," going from smallest to largest. And now we're just going to set those to the side, and we're going to start sanding everything down. Now this is the piece that we stained, the longer piece, so that we can attach our words to. And I'm just going to I'm just going to sand this down to make it look more rustic. Once all of our pieces are finished, I'm taking the color Pavement by Apple Barrel, and I'm going to put a little bit on a paper towel, and then I'm going to use a round sponge dauber, and we're going to distress each piece.
We will carry a song heard through the ages from ages.
After I used the Pavement gray to distress everything, I still thought it looked a little too gray. It didn't look rustic to me. So then I took Waverly's Antique Wax and I put it on the sponge dauber and I just wiped off all the excess. And then I really kind of went in with almost like a heavy hand to really antique this up, to kind of mix the brown with the gray, and this gave me the color that I absolutely loved. I loved how this turned out. When all of our pieces are dry, we're going to arrange them onto our stake so that it will say "You Cut Tree Farm." And when we cut these down, we cut them so they'll look like a Christmas tree when they're on the stake. So once we have them arranged on there, and like I said, I don't want these like straight or anything. I want them kind of crooked, kind of rustic looking. And once I have them where I want them, we're going to use some wood glue for that permanent hold, but we're also going to use some hot glue for the quick hold.
The fire crackling gently all the while. Snow is falling down. Guess everything's just around.
After I had everything glued down, I felt like that it was still missing a little something. So I had a star in my stash that I had painted black for another project. So I decided to sand that down, and I'm adding that to the top of this. And after I sand it down, we're just going to hot glue it. I love how this is turning out so far, but we're going to go ahead and set that to the side for now, and we're going to work on the base of this. And so for the base, what I'm using is one of these aluminum flower and garden pots that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I just tore the handles off the side. So now I'm going to take some acetone and I'm going to go over the lettering on this to remove that. We don't need any of this lettering on here. And I notice if you rub over it once with the acetone and kind of let it soak in, and then go at it again with a fresh cotton swab and scrub at it, it comes right off. It's actually pretty easy to do. When we have all the letters removed, I'm going to take this finger sander and I'm just going to rough this up so that it's easier to paint, because I am going to paint over this. It's still going to be galvanized, but it's going to be my type of galvanized look that I like. I think what Dollar Tree does on their pieces looks too shiny, and I don't know, it just doesn't look realistic to me. So I'm going to sand over this, rough it up, and then we're going to galvanize. So we're first going to start out by using some white chalk paint, and we're just going to dab it all over our pail. And this is my galvanization technique, if that's a word. I don't know. But this is my technique, and when I galvanize things, there's a lot of techniques out there. This is just how I found I get more realistic look, or a look that I prefer. And so yeah, we're going to start out by dabbing on some white paint. Once the white paint is dry, we're going to take Waverly chalk paint in the color Elephant, and we're going to rub and dab it all over this pail. And the reason why I'm kind of brushing it is, and I'm just covering up some of those shiny spots that's still on the pail, because when I went over this with the white, we just did a really rough coat, because I don't want a whole lot of white on this. Again, this is my technique to galvanizing things. Definitely use your own technique. Plus, there's a lot of Google videos and YouTube videos and all kinds of videos out there that show different techniques that you can use. But this is the technique that I use and that I like the most. Now, with the elephant gray paint still a little wet, I'm going to go in with some more white paint. And I'm just going to go over that a little more on the places where I think I got a little heavy-handed with the gray. And this is just going to kind of blend everything together. Using Waverly chalk paint and ink, we're going to dab that all over the pail. And this is just going to add a little more detail to the galvanization process. I really hope galvanization is a word, because if it's not, I feel pretty dumb saying that about 3 times in this video. When everything is dry, this is what it should look like. Setting that to the side for now, we're going to use one of these Christmas trees that you can get from the Dollar Tree. You're not going to need the stand, you're just going to need the tree. Once we have the tree out of the box and the stand removed, we're just going to fluff the tree. These trees are really sparse, so they're easy to fluff. You can tell each level of the tree. Now you're going to need a piece of floral foam, and with that we're just going to cut a small slit in that so that we're able to stick our You Cut Tree Farm sign down into the floral foam. This type of floral foam that I'm using, I had to cut a slit for because it was very hard for this stake to fit. Once I have that in the floral foam, I'm just going to stick that into the pail that we galvanized. And then behind that, I'm going to stick the Christmas tree that we fluffed. And again, I am not hot gluing anything down because I don't want this to be permanent. This is something I want to be able to take apart so that I can store. You can use hot glue if you want to, but this will all stay in there perfectly fine. You do not need to use any hot glue for this. And you can see I'm kind of wrapping the limbs of the tree around the sign. That's also going to hold this up a little bit. And right now it doesn't seem like it's stable, but trust me, once we get this fixed up the way we want it and everything, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay upright, I promise. When I have the front how I like it, I'm going to work on the back, and I'm just going to kind of have this like a down sweeping motion, because where I'm going to have it, you are going to see the back. So I also want the back to look a little neat. And again, I just wrapped some of these limbs through this sign that we made. And I know you can't see the entire sign yet, but you will be able to by the end of the video. And as you can see, the front and back look nice and neat. And now I'm just going to use some Dollar Tree bags as filler to kind of fill this in. And you're just going to shove them down in there. And this is also going to add stability to the sign. So that's why I said you don't need super glue for any of this. This is why I said it's not going to go anywhere. Because not only is the floral foam holding this in place, but you're also going to have all these Dollar Tree bags down in there that's going to hold it upright. Now we're going to take some of the Spanish moss and we are going to fill it in on top of those bags. So now you understand why we put the bags in there, because it would take a ton of Spanish moss to have to fill this in. So we're just going to kind of lay that on top of the bags all the way around the tree. As you can see, I also added a pine cone to put inside the pail. And now I'm just going to take some of this Dollar Tree ribbon that says Merry Christmas and has a little red truck. And I'm just going to hot glue that around the top of the pail. And this ribbon was a last minute decision. So you might want to, if you're going to add the ribbon to this, you might want to do it before you put the tree and your sign in there. It would make it a whole lot easier. And I'm just adding the hot glue on the back so that nobody can see it. When the ribbon is glued on there, I'm just going to take a greenery pick with some of these red berries and a pine cone, and I'm going to glue that to the front. Need 3 pieces of scrapbook paper. I'm using 2 of these like tartan plaid pieces, and then I'm using this green plaid. I got all of these from Hobby Lobby. And you're also going to need 3 canvas frames. These are canvas frames that I had already used for a different project, so we're just recycling them. And you just want a smooth finish. I'm not worried about this paper because it's going to be covered up with the scrapbook paper. And these are, I got these from Michael's, I think. So these are the heavy duty canvas frames. I really like these. I'm going to take some Mod Podge and I'm going to pour it onto my canvas frame, and we're going to smooth it out. And all you need is just a thin layer of Mod Podge because you don't want this to wrinkle. And I'm just going to thin this out over the canvas, and we're just going to apply our scrapbook paper. And you're going to do this to all 3 of the canvas frames. When I've applied the paper, I'm going to take my brayer and we're just going to make sure that it has a good adhesive hold onto the canvas, and we're going to smooth out any wrinkles with this. Again, you're going to do this with all 3 canvas frames. When all of our frames are dry, now we're just going to cut off any excess paper. You don't have to do this because technically you can wrap this paper around this frame. It might make it a little bit neater, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to paint the edges and the sides, so that's why I didn't wrap it around the frame. I just cut off all the excess. So once I had all my sides cut off, I went in to paint the edges, and I first started out by using this Crimson Red by Apple Barrel, but it wasn't the right color red I wanted for this tartan plaid, so I mixed up some paints to get the right color that I needed. I'll be honest with you, if you just start out using Crimson Red by Waverly, you'll have the right color, but I didn't have any at the time. But once I did get some, I went over this with the Crimson Red. So you can skip forward through all this. I'm going to save you the hassle and not even show you all the mixing of paint that I did, because it took me forever to get the color red that I wanted. But I'm going to show you the finished product after I went over it with the Crimson Red. Now on the green one that we used, the green plaid, we're going to take this Holly Branch green paint from Apple Barrel, and I'm going to give this 2 coats. I did notice that on the canvas it does require 2 coats to cover up all the canvas, but this turns out really pretty. What I'm doing here is I'm just measuring the canvas because I forgot how wide these were, and I've noticed that they're 10 inches long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my miter box, and I'm going to take 5-gallon paint stir sticks from Walmart, and I'm going to cut these down to 12 inches because I want them to be 2 inches long than the width of my canvas signs, and you're going to need 3 of these. Once our paint stir sticks are cut down to 12 inches, you want to make sure you save the pieces that you cut off, because we're going to use those for supports. We're going to paint 2 of our sticks with the Waverly chalk paint in white, and you don't have to worry about giving it 2 coats. This is just going to be 1 rough coat, that way we don't have to sand anything down. So yes, some of the wood will still be showing by the time I'm done painting this. Using Apple Barrel's pavement paint in matte finish, we're just going to give this a light coat. You still want some of the wood showing through. When our paint is dry, we're going to glue on our paint sticks, and we're gluing the 2 white ones onto the tartan plaid canvas frames, and we're going to glue the gray one onto the green canvas frame. Now I'm just going to go over each frame with a light coat of Mod Podge, and we're going to let that dry really well because I'm going to use some Cricut transfers on these, and I find that Mod Podge makes it easier to apply them without pulling the paper up. So all 3 canvases will need a light coat of Mod Podge. Once the Mod Podge is dry, you can now take your Cricut printouts or your stencils or whatever you're going to use, and you're just going to transfer the words onto your piece. And I chose the words Merry Christmas, and I just went into Cricut Design Space and found the word Merry that I liked, and I'm just going to transfer that to the center of my canvas. Once I had the word Merry transferred onto my piece, I took some more Mod Podge and I just went over the lettering to kind of dull down that shininess, because the Mod Podge I use is a matte finish, and I just kind of wanted this dulled down a little bit because the vinyl I used was very shiny. I'm taking this word Christmas that I printed out on my Cricut. Again, this came from Cricut Design Space. And I'm going to transfer that onto the green plaid canvas sign. And I'm going to have it going up at an angle. And then once I have that transferred on there, I'm going to go over it with some Mod Podge, just like we did the word Merry. Then on the other tartan plaid canvas sign, I printed out some snowflakes. And we're just going to add those all over this one. And I printed them out on some silver vinyl so that it just kind of contrasts with the white and the tartan plaid. I think it turned out really good. And you're just going to add these wherever you want to add them. And I think I ended up using 6 of these snowflakes, and I just printed out all different shapes and sizes. I wanted a couple of these snowflakes on the edges to be half snowflakes to kind of look like they were going off the page. So I just added them to the very edge, and I'm going to cut off the rest of the snowflake using a pair of scissors. So that way they just kind of look like they're floating off the edge of the canvas. Now it's time for the fun part, and we're going to start assembling this project. So I'm going to apply some hot glue to the bottom of the word Merry, and then we're going to take our green plaid sign that says Christmas, and I'm going to kind of put it at an angle, and we're going to glue that on top of Merry. Once the hot glue is dry on front, I'm going to flip it around because it does need some support so that it can sit up straight. And we're going to take those ends that we cut off our paint stir sticks. Remember, I told you to save those. Now we're going to take those ends and we're going to glue those on the back just like this so that the signs will have more support and will stand up straight. Then we're going to take the last tartan plaid canvas, the one that has the snowflakes on it, and we are going to glue that onto the Christmas canvas, just like this. And I'm actually gluing this straight. The only one that was kind of off to the angle was the Christmas canvas, but the top and bottom, the Merry and the snowflakes lined up with each other. Now we're just going to flip this over and we're going to take those extra pieces of the paint stir sticks that we cut off, and just like we did for the Merry Christmas, we are going to glue those to the back of the snowflake and to the Christmas canvas, and this just adds as support and a brace to hold these together and to stand them up straight. Now I'm just going to take some craft paper and I'm going to cover up the back so that you don't see all this. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I just like my projects finished, so I just glued some scrap paper and cut it down to fit on the back. For some reason it didn't record me adding some foam snowflakes to the second canvas, the one that has the Christmas, and it didn't show me adding the bow to the top of this project. This is just a wall leaner, so you shouldn't need a wall hanger or you shouldn't need a stand. It's heavy enough to prop up against the wall or fireplace on its own, but once you have all that done, that makes this project complete. You're going to need 15 jumbo craft sticks, and I'm going to divide them up into piles because each one's going to be its own Christmas tree. So in one pile you're going to need 3 craft sticks, and then the other pile you're going to need 5 craft sticks, and then you're going to be left over with 7 craft sticks. I'm going to start out by removing the rounded tip of these jumbo craft sticks, and I'm going to cut as close to the rounded part as I can without cutting any more of the stick than I have to just yet, because we're going to cut each one of these down to size. But for right now, I'm just cutting off all the rounds. Once I have the rounded tips cut off, I'm going to measure this down to 5 inches. So 3 of these jumbo craft sticks will be 5 inches long. And I'm just going to use my scissors to cut these because they're really thin jumbo craft sticks, but you want to be careful because sometimes they can split. And then I'm just going to use the first one I measured as my template. And you want to make sure you save those ends that you cut off because we're going to need those to kind of design these Christmas trees and to hold them together.
So beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe, baby, with you. Woo-hoo.
Now I'm going to take 7 of those jumbo craft sticks and we're going to cut those down to 6 inches. And the last 5 should measure out 7 inches. So just to recap, you should have 3 craft sticks at 5 inches, 5 craft sticks at 7 inches, and 7 craft sticks at 6 inches. Okay, we're going to start out with our 7 6-inch craft sticks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of painter's tape and we're going to lay it down on our table sticky side up, and we're going to line all 7 of these craft sticks together. And what the tape is going to do is it's just going to hold these craft sticks so they don't move on us, and I'm just making sure they're nice and even on the tape.
I don't need any presents. There's long as I spend this day with you. So beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe, baby, with you. Ooh.
Now we're going to use the tape and wrap it around our craft sticks, and this is going to hold them all in place while we draw our Christmas tree design on the front of these craft sticks. The tape's going to prevent all of these from moving and falling apart. Once everything is taped together, I'm going to go to the center craft stick, and I'm going to measure out the center point of that craft stick, which each one of these craft sticks are 1 inch wide, so of course the center point would be 1/2 inch. And then I'm just going to draw a diagonal line from that point to the bottom of these craft sticks, as you can see, to the bottom corner. And we're basically going to make a Christmas tree shape or a triangle, however you want to look at it. So now I'm going to take some scrap pieces of craft sticks, the pieces that we cut off or cut down, and I'm going to use this as a bracket or a support piece for all of these craft sticks so that when we remove the tape, it doesn't fall apart. And I'm just going to use some hot glue and glue these down. Once we have our support pieces glued onto our tree, we're going to keep the tape on and we're going to go ahead and start cutting this out. Now you can use scissors or you can use an X-Acto knife, whatever's easier for you. I ended up using my utility knife because it was able to cut through these craft sticks very easily.
Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging. Not only green.
So now I'm just going to remove the tape and I'm going to reinforce it once again with a piece of scrap wood, which is like the scrap pieces that we cut off these craft sticks. And I don't really care how the back looks because nobody's really going to see the back. So I'm just going to arrange this to where I know all the pieces of craft stick is going to stay together to keep my tree form. And you're going to do this with the other 2 sets of craft sticks. The exact same thing. You're going to measure it out, you're going to draw your lines, and you're going to cut out your tree. After all your trees are cut out, this is what you should have. We have 3 different Christmas trees. And now I'm just going to sand all these rough edges down. Okay, now the fun part. We get to decorate these trees. Each tree is going to be unique and I'm going to decorate each one differently. So for this tree, I'm just cutting down some scrap wood and I'm just going to add it to the front of the tree. I'm just going to use some hot glue and glue these down. Again, this can serve as 2 purposes. One, it's going to be like the brackets that we glued onto the back for this tree, but also it's just going to make it look a little more rustic.
Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree, thy leaves are so
I'm going to do the same thing to this wider tree. I'm just going to add some scrap wood to the front for decorative purposes. And this is just for inspiration. If you don't like my design, just change it up and do what you want to do. Do what suits you. I like the rustic look, and so I'm just trying to get these to look like pallet trees or like old barn wood trees. I'm going to use antique white to paint the larger tree, and I'm just going to give it a real light coat. I still want some of the wood showing. Using Christmas green, I'm going to paint my medium-sized tree, and again, it's just going to be a rough coat of paint. I'm not going to do 2 coats or anything. You're still going to be able to see some of the wood. I'm going to take Waverly chalk paint and crimson, and I'm going to paint the smaller tree. When all of our paint is dry, I'm just going to take my finger sander and I'm going to sand up all the paint to make it look a little more rustic. Okay, now you're going to need 6 tower tumbling blocks and we're going to glue these together in pairs. So each tree will have 2 tower tumbling blocks and this will be the trunk of the tree. As you can see here, I'm just gluing them together so that when I put them up vertically, it gives it a little more height. Then you're just going to glue your tower tumbling blocks onto each tree. Now using some scrap wood I had in my stash, I'm just going to make some stands for these trees so that they'll be able to stand. And I'm just going to glue those craft sticks down to the stand. And this is just going to give it some stability so it doesn't fall over. Now I'm just going to take some antiquing wax and I'm going to paint over the base and the stem of all 3 trees. I'm also going to take some of that antique wax on a very dry brush and I'm just going to dry brush it all over the actual tree itself. And this is just going to kind of give it more of a vintage look. Once again, I'm going to do this to all 3 trees. This candle wreath or garland, whatever you want to call it, in my stash that has pine cones on it. So I'm going to remove a couple of these pine cones and I'm also going to remove some of this wire off of this because I'm going to use this to decorate the base of the tree and I'm also going to use it to decorate the little red tree. So I'm just going to remove 2 pine cones and I'm going to glue that to the base of my white tree. Now, using that wire that I cut off from the garland, I'm going to glue it onto the back and I'm going to wrap it around the red tree. And last but not least, I'm just going to glue a mini star on top of the green tree.
Oh, it's Christmas time. I feel sad, I can't help it. Got you on my mind. I don't know how to cope this because it's Christmas time.
For this project, I'm using a jar or a glass. You can also use a vase. And I'm also using some white chalk paint. And I'm going to give the inside of this 2 coats of white chalk paint. You can paint the outside if you want. I just prefer painting the inside. While my paint was drying, I went to my Cricut and I printed out a Christmas tree design onto some buffalo check scrapbook paper, and I applied some Mod Podge to the front of this and I adhered the tree to the jar. You can also use vinyl if you want to. I just didn't have any buffalo check vinyl, so that's why I use scrapbook paper and why I'm having to use Mod Podge to adhere the scrapbook paper to the jar. And then once I have that adhered, I'm going to take some more Mod Podge and I'm going to go over the front of this Christmas tree so that it doesn't get ripped and it's sealed. Once our Mod Podge is dry, I'm going to take some greenery and some florals and I'm just going to start making my arrangement. Now I'm using this because this is just some like garland piece that I had left over in my stash and I'm going to put it in the jar. And this is pretty much just going to kind of be the main piece of this centerpiece. So I'm just going to kind of fluff it out into like a little, I don't know, sloppy tree, whatever you want to call it. But this is going to be my greenery for this piece. Now using this berry pick that I got from the Dollar Tree, I'm just going to cut the stems off and I'm going to place them into my arrangement.
Warm laughter and white smiles, where presents stacked in piles. Take me away.
I'm also going to take this like snowy branch pick. I don't actually know what you call this, like a grapevine pick. I really don't know. I got it from the Dollar Tree and I'm just going to fill that in. That's going to add a little bit of the rustic look to this. It's going to look like it's just like snowy sticks or tree limbs coming out of my arrangement. I also just wanted to point out that I didn't have to use any floral foam for this because I have it so stuffed full it's not going to go anywhere. So now I'm just taking one of those long pine cones that I got off of a pick. I think I got it from Walmart, and I'm just going to stick that in the center of my floral piece, not gluing anything down. I'm just going to stick it on top there because it's not going to go anywhere. Then I'm just going to add some berries next to the pine cone to go in the center, and this is just going to add a little bit more color to this. Now, using this ribbon I got from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to make a bow. Once I have my bow made, I'm going to do a little fluffing, and I'm just going to glue that to my floral centerpiece.
What a bliss, a green red delight with glimmering silver wine. You dazzle us all from big to small. Warm laughter and white smiles, bright presents stacked in piles.
If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up. Also, click on one of the videos that's popping up on your screen because that really does help my channel. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And if you're already a subscriber, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.